On a brisk autumn evening in downtown Chicago, the upscale restaurant known as the Sterling Oak buzzed with energy. Patrons arrived dressed to impress, seeking not just a meal but an unforgettable dining experience. With its gleaming marble countertops, sparkling chandeliers, and tastefully curated artwork lining the walls, the interior radiated understated opulence and timeless elegance. Soft ambient music floated through the air, mingling with the delicate clink of fine china and the murmur of hushed conversations. Every detail of the establishment whispered meticulous craftsmanship and a reverence for the finest details. That evening, as the door opened and a sharply dressed young man stepped inside, his presence went largely unnoticed by the busy staff. Wearing a well-fitted navy suit, his hair neatly combed, and moving with quiet authority, the man Julian Monroe blended into the elite crowd. To the unacquainted, he appeared to be another refined guest. Julian quietly chose a table by the grand window, gazing out at the city lights with an air of casual tranquility. Though his demeanor was modest, those observant enough might have sensed there was more to him than met the eye. What no one realized was that Julian Monroe wasn't just a visitor. He was the owner of the Sterling Oak. Known for his incognito visits, Julian often dined amongst his guests to experience the ambience and service firsthand. It was his way of ensuring that the vision he had built remained intact. But fate has a way of bending expectations, and on this night, an incident would unfold that would leave a lasting impact well beyond the velvet-draped walls of the restaurant. Jason Murphy, a young waiter who had just finished a shift at the bar, was moving quickly through the dining room. Overwhelmed by the rush and the pressure of the evening, his nerves were frayed. When his eyes landed on Julian, he mistook the owner's quiet confidence for disregard. Without a second thought, Jason strode toward Julian's table, irritation evident in his tone. "Excuse me, sir," he began, his voice sharp. "Do you believe it's appropriate to expect top-tier service when your appearance doesn't meet the standards we uphold?" The words cut through the buzz of the dining room like a blade. The comment wasn't just about attire, it was a judgment, delivered without understanding or context. Nearby diners paused, their forks suspended mid-air. The once fluid rhythm of the room halted as a hush swept over the tables. Julian looked up, stunned. His face registered disbelief and a flicker of pain. He had not expected to be publicly scolded in his own restaurant. While Julian was no stranger to criticism in high-powered boardrooms, being rebuked by a young staffer in the middle of dinner was something else entirely. "I appreciate your concern," Julian replied, his voice even. "But I dress in accordance with my personal style. I came here to enjoy a quiet meal, not to be corrected for my choices." Jason, feeling righteous in his role, pressed on. "We have standards here, and all patrons are expected to follow them. I suggest aligning with what our clientele expects." His tone was firm, almost cold. The room, once filled with ambient warmth, now pulsed with discomfort. Guests exchanged glances. Julian sat quietly, digesting the encounter, the sting of embarrassment fading into a steely determination. Back at the bar, a group of employees murmured about the commotion. Among them was Marcus Bennett, the seasoned floor manager who had worked in hospitality for over 2 decades. He observed the mood shifts, noting Jason's flushed face and the stiff silence of the room. Sensing trouble, he readied himself to step in. Julian, meanwhile, sat with his thoughts, the incident replaying in his mind. Though he had faced tense negotiations and high-stakes decisions, this felt personal. He wondered how such a lapse in professionalism could occur in a place known for excellence. Jason tried to continue his rounds as though nothing had happened, but the whispers followed him. His confidence began to wane. At another table, Linda, a veteran server, whispered that wasn't just about a dress code. It felt personal. Another colleague, Anthony, added, "He's probably just stressed." But still, that was out of line. Marcus approached Julian's table discreetly. "Good evening, sir. I couldn't help but notice the disturbance. Is everything all right?" Julian offered a polite but tight smile. "Thank you. I hope the matter will be handled. I've always valued the standard of service here." Elsewhere in the restaurant, patrons speculated. Some recalled past sightings of a mysterious, well-dressed man whom many suspected to be the owner. One regular, Richard Harris, murmured to his wife, "I think I've seen him before. I believe that's Julian Monroe. He owns this place." The realization spread like wildfire. Suddenly, the context changed. Jason had not chastised a customer, but the very man who had founded the Sterling Oak. Marcus, now aware, returned to Julian's table with an urgent expression. "Sir, please accept our deepest apologies. We were unaware of your identity this evening." Julian stood slowly, his presence commanding attention. "Let me clarify," he said, his voice calm but firm. Yes, I am the owner. My visit tonight was intentional to ensure our standards are met. Gasps and murmurs rippled across the room. Jason stood frozen, the weight of his mistake dawning on him like a cold wave. His earlier confidence dissolved into raw regret. Julian walked over to him. Your approach was unacceptable, he said, with restrained emotion. Respect must never be compromised, no matter the policies in place. Jason stammered. I was just enforcing the dress code. I didn't know. That's the point, Julian said gently. Every guest deserves dignity. A rule should never come at the cost of kindness. The dining room was silent. Guests watched, not with disdain, but with empathy as Julian extended a hand, resting it on Jason's shoulder. Apologizing is a start, he said. But understanding the why, that's what matters. Let's make sure this doesn't happen again. Jason nodded, his voice trembling. I'm sorry. Truly. I let the pressure get the best of me. That night, after service concluded, a meeting was held in the private room. Julian, Marcus, and the senior staff gathered to debrief. Julian addressed them with composed conviction. Excellence doesn't mean perfection. It means growth. Tonight was a test, and we stumbled. But we can use this to elevate who we are. Training modules were redesigned. Jason enrolled in programs for conflict resolution and guest engagement. Over the next few weeks, under Marcus' mentorship, he transformed. He learned to approach guests with empathy, seeing beyond appearances. Word of the incident spread beyond the Sterling Oak. But rather than damage its reputation, it became a beacon of humility and reform. Reviewers praised the handling of the situation. Industry peers referenced it in forums. The Sterling Oak became known not just for its cuisine but for its character. Julian remained a guiding presence, not from a distant office, but on the floor, with his team. He walked the dining room, spoke with staff, encouraged feedback. The restaurant shifted. A new atmosphere of openness emerged. Meetings were no longer top-down but collaborative. The restaurant didn't just recover. It evolved. Months later, patrons still remembered that night. Not for the embarrassment or the drama, but for what followed. A restaurant rediscovering its soul. A team learning to serve not just with skill, but with humanity. And so, the Sterling Oak endures as a place where elegance meets humility, where standards are upheld through grace, and where every misstep is a chance to grow stronger. A legacy not defined by flawlessness, but by the courage to learn from flaws. And a reminder, above all, that the true heart of hospitality lies in understanding, respect, and the dignity we afford one another.